Oh, the Midwest summer. You know how it wouldn't be that bad if it weren't for the humidity? Well, we will never know because it is always so humid. And honestly, even without it, we all know it wouldn't be much better. We're rewarded for living in a place that freezes our lips in place all winter by having our faces melted off during May, June, July, August. And yet, something in the not-so-far-away sky makes it all worth it. Not the sun making your whole body feel the way your tongue does when you sip the coffee too early. No, not the trees waving in the breeze or the fresh-cut grass that's the reason you take allergy pills all year round. No. You hear that? Bring on the brain freeze. Popsicles, slushies, and of course, ice cream. But this is a big girl podcast. We're all grown up, and so are our desserts. So today on Abby Eats St. Louis, we are sucking up some of the best boozy frozen treats this town has to offer. We'll talk about how we got our favorite alcoholic ice cream, partially thanks to a crock pot left on a porch step.
Like, who does that?
Midwesterners do that.
Midwesterners do that. It's amazing.
The experience, or lack thereof, that led to a renowned craft cocktail destination.
I worked at Buffalo Wild Wings and poured beers for a short stint, but besides that,
no offense or anything, but that's 0% count.
No. I know, it doesn't.
And why taking a break from their stuffy office jobs gave the rest of us the best kind of summertime happy hour.
I tell everyone I could not have followed my dreams and have done this in any other city.
These are some of the coolest people I've met on the podcast so far. Pun intended, but also deserved. You are going to love them too. Grab a spoon and raise a cone, because St. Louis is so much more than frozen custard.
Sure.
Do people hate me when I ask for samples?
No.
You
That's
promise?
part of the experience. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Standing behind the counter at Clementine's Naughty and Nice Creamery, I decided to put that to the test.
This is our gooey butter cake ice cream. This is our most popular ice cream.
It's my favorite thing that
Yes.
you guys have here. And then this,
ice cream. I'm gonna have you try. This is our chocolate coconut fudge.
this one.
Yes. This ice cream is the one that we won the best vegan ice cream in America with, that flavor.
Wait, that's vegan?
Yes.
It sounds like one of these like fake infomercial things, but I seriously would never have known that that was vegan. with that
I
one.
know, right? It's amazing.
That's so good.
So this is a fun one. This is my front porch mint. And I started making this. I grew all of the mint on my front porch when I started this. And then it was such a popular flavor.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? That I got beds in the Lafayette Square community garden. And so I was growing all the mint in there. And then we started partnering with Food Roof at Urban Harvest.
Yes, yes.
And they started growing mint for us. So, we're it's no longer grown on my front porch, but I really like the name.
And I don't mind if I do.
Go ahead.
Dory,
I can get my taste later.
I was gonna
Okay.
say, this is one of those moments where I'm so glad it's Abby Eats St. Louis, not Dory Eats St. Louis. It's so good. I'm sorry it took you so long to get to your dream job, because I think I'm working mine right now.
That's
Tamara Keefe is the owner, founder, and Flavor Temptress at Clementine's. Seriously, Flavor Temptress is her official title because hashtag company culture.
A little sexy, a little edgy, kind of fun. It always gets a chuckle. Like, it's a great conversation starter if I give someone my business card.
Yeah.
So it's
But
fun.
It's fun, but it's one of many titles you've had that maybe weren't as sexy, I guess.
Very true.
Tell me a little bit about your journey to become the Flavor Temptress.
Well, I did over 20 years in corporate America. In my last gig, my last real job, I say, when I worked for someone else, I ran a $70 million business for Abbott, and I was a senior brand manager. So that was my last kind of big title. And
In so
I
many
started-
ways,
gosh.
Tamara has that classic girl boss story. The first woman in her family to go to college, she worked her way up, climbing that corporate ladder, kicking butt and taking names.
I had my dream job,
You had your dream job, and then
or I thought I did.
well. How did you realize it wasn't your dream job? Because I know especially as women, you think you get to that certain point and that's when you're supposed to be satisfied, when you're supposed to be happy and just living that corporate life, right?
Yeah, well, it was interesting because I'd made it. I had this amazing job. I had huge staff, and I was running this huge P&L. I managed a P&L. I ran this huge business. And from the outside, it looked like I had this like super glamorous, incredible life. I was traveling all over the world, and I was always gone. And I just got really lonely because the higher you go in corporate America, the lonelier it is.
Yeah.
And I was always gone. And literally, I was sitting at Lake of the Ozarks with a couple of girlfriends one morning having coffee, and I just like broke down. Like ugly cry, broke down, and they're like, "Oh my God, what's wrong with you? We knew something was up." Because I really pushed for like this girls' weekend because I really needed those connections.
You needed that tribe.
Yeah, I needed my tribe. And I just kind of broke down and I said, I'm miserable. Like, this is not what I thought my life would be. I'm 38 years old. I have no husband. I have no children. I live in this big house. I never see my friends. And I'm never home. I was in hotels more than I was at home.
Yeah.
And so I just was, miserable and upset. And my girlfriend turns to me and she kind of starts laughing. Who laughs at your girlfriend when you're doing the ugly cry, right? That's so mean.
I know.
But she's like laughing at me. I'm like,
You must have a very ugly cry.
oh, it's ugly. It's an ugly cry. Well, and I'm like, why are you laughing at me? And she's like, you should quit. I'm like, quit what? She's like, quit your job. And I'm like, you don't quit corporate America, especially not where you come from. Where I come from, which I come from really humble beginnings. I worked really hard to get where I was. I'm the only person in my family that ever went to college and beyond. That's just not something that anyone in the right, sane mind would ever do.
Yeah, it's a hard thing for anybody to go through or feel like has to be a decision that comes to them, but then you can see what you're saying. You actually put the work into getting where you were.
And I busted my ass. Can you say that?
You can say that. We're on the
Okay.
podcast.
Oh, I love that.
You can say whatever we want.
I love it. I busted my ass. I didn't start college until I was 25, so I was a non-traditional student. I went to college. I worked 2 and 3 jobs, and I got my bachelor's, and then I got into Oxford, and then I went to Oxford, and then I was doing consulting, and then I decided to get my MBA, and so I put myself through business school, and so I worked really hard in my life to get where I was, and so the thought of quitting was like deafening almost. Like I couldn't totally comprehend it, and so kind of in the next few moments I said, well, what would I do? And my other girlfriend looks to me and she goes, you're always complaining St. Louis doesn't have good ice cream. You're always bitching our neighborhood doesn't have an ice cream shop. And that is your hobby and passion, and that's what you love doing more than anything. Why don't you do that? You work in the food industry, you know how to do it. You're always saying, well, if I did this, I would do it my way this way. Or, we always say that if I had it, my choice.
If only everybody thought the way I did, then
right.
This is how it would be done.
Right,
Yes.
right. And I was like, snot is like running down my face.
Of course.
And then I was like, And then my girlfriend turns, she's like, well, what's the worst thing that could happen? You fail? Okay, well, I'm highly employable, right? I can go get a job anywhere, maybe not at the same level, but I could do it. And literally that weekend, me and my girlfriends wrote my business plan, my marketing plan, put together my financials and my PowerPoint deck. And 2 weeks later, I quit.
So you made sure ducks were in a row, and then this crazy idea that your friend just threw out there, you said,
Well,
I can do it.
Thinking back, I had this amazing, accomplished group of women around me who I respected and I trusted, that were incredibly brilliant and smart. And I thought, well, if they believe in me, I can believe in me. We are making memories every day. This ice cream is the happiest food product on earth.
Yeah.
Right? We never have an unhappy customer. We talk about the magic threshold. And literally, you will see people outside, like walking up to the building, they have their purse, and they're like burdened with life. You know, they kind of come in like this. And literally they open the door and they step over that threshold and their whole body opens up, their face opens up, they breathe it in, they smile, and like instantly their life is better because they know they're gonna have my ice cream. And that is like incredibly gratifying and a beautiful thing to like see and do every day, and then hear, you know, people say, oh my God, this is the best ice cream I ever had.
It seems like you get to give people on a smaller, but just a very important level, the same kind of experience you had, where it's leaving the sorrows at the door and then coming to ice cream. I mean, they don't say, go drown your sorrows in a bowl of kale salad.
Right.
For a reason, right?
Yeah.
Clementine was the name of her grandmother's best friend, a beautiful silver-haired lady who always fascinated Tamara. She always said she'd name her daughter Clementine one day. Well, now she has 3 babies, all named Clementine, a 4th location opening later this year, and more than 60 employees helping her raise Clementines, far from her California roots.
You know, you're not from St. Louis.
Nope.
Most of our St. Louis success stories have some kind of St. Louis ties, but it was your corporate job that brought you here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And when you were first kind of checking out the scene in St. Louis, you noticed that there wasn't good ice cream. What else did you kind of notice? What was your impression of St. Louis before you became as embedded in it as you are now?
Sure. It's actually a great story. So when I was working for DuPont at the time, and when they said, hey, there's this amazing opportunity that we would like you to look at in St. Louis, my answer was no. I was from Southern California. I lived on the beach. Like I was an Orange County girl through and through, right? Like I wasn't going anywhere. And if I did have to go somewhere, I wanted Chicago or New York or some, you know, well-known big city.
A city that you can tell your friends that you're living there or moving there, and they would just understand.
It might be comparable or whatever.
Yeah.
So
It took half a year and a lot of pressure to get her to even consider moving to St. Louis.
So literally, I came to St. Louis kicking and screaming. I did not want to move here. I kept my hairdresser for the first few months in California, and I'd fly back to get my hair done. Like I was not going to stay here.
You were committed to not
being here. And quite honestly, I didn't even really know where it was on the map. I knew it was somewhere in the middle. So I didn't really know anything about St. Louis except they had this arch thing, right?
This arch thing. We do have that arch thing.
Yeah. It's actually really cool.
Right.
So literally I came here kicking and screaming, but within 6 months, I found my one true love, and that's the city of St. Louis, and I will never leave. I totally fell in love with this city. There's so much going on here. Midwesterners are friendly people. Your tax dollars are at work. You have free museums and the zoo and the science center and so much programming in the city. Like your tax dollars actually go to work in this city.
Yeah.
Your cost of living is ridiculously cheap compared to the rest of the world, where like you can be a young couple, live on one income, start a family, buy a house, go on vacation, save for retirement. That is like unheard of in this country. St. Louis is like this hidden gem. If you're into the music scene, they have a great music scene. If you're into the arts, excuse me, there's an amazing art scene here. If you're into food, there's such a cool food scene here. If you're into tech or startup, like St. Louis has all these amazing things going for it. And I just like fell in love. Like I had no idea. Luckily, I really believed it. I moved into Lafayette Square.
Gorgeous neighborhood.
And it was amazing, and people were out, and it was walkable, and people were kind and introduced me to other people, and so I made friends so easy here. And I really believed because I moved into the city, and I just got to experience what the city had to offer. And like things would happen to me, like I'd be traveling for like 10 and a half days, and I'd come home, and there'd be a crock pot full of chili on my front step with a note saying, we noticed you've been traveling 10 and a half days and figured you wouldn't want to cook. Leave the dirty dishes out on the step and we'll get them tomorrow. Like, who does that?
Midwesterners do that.
Midwesterners do that. It's amazing.
Yes.
And, you know, if it was snowing, you know, they'd call, hey, we're going to go to the grocery store. Do you need anything? We know you don't like driving in the snow. Because I didn't really have any experience driving in the snow. And so it was just things like that kept happening, and I loved the company. I loved the opportunity. Like, it was just, I was surrounded by all these amazing people, and I really did fall in love with St. Louis. And I thought, wow, this is a place where people are supportive of each other. They're kind to each other. Neighbors are really neighbors. and there was so much to do in the city, right? That people don't talk about enough. So that's how I kind of fell in love with St. Louis. And then I did fall in love after. I found my soulmate after I was here a little while. But yeah, St. Louis is this like really cool and magical place. I wish more people who were from here could recognize that, because someone who came from an amazing place, not in Southern California, to come here and fall in love with this place, we should have so much pride in our city. It's not so cost prohibitive that you can't do those things. And to be able to, grow your wings and have people help you get off the ground and fly, that's like incredible. I'm always like so thankful to St. Louis, because I think back to like my journey in starting the business and how it happened and how people came out and they called, and before my store was open, they called, and I was decided to do free delivery around the city of St. Louis. And people would call, and I would deliver 1 pint of ice cream or pints of ice cream. And it was crazy. That December, I ended up hand delivering 1,500 pints of my ice cream around St. Louis. And then in January, it was 1,700. It went on social media and word of mouth, and it was amazing. But people were telling me, we want you here. We want you to do this. We want you to succeed. And that was so powerful for me, right? Because I was taking this huge risk.
Yeah.
And people showed up, and they still show up. And there's, every time there's a line or customers in the store, I'm like so grateful. And
Still
I'm
kind of
humbled.
hits you.
Oh, it still does, because, in just 4 short years, 5 going on our 5th year.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing.
So I have to call you out, because people will not be able to see this if they're listening on the podcast, but you got a little teared up there when you were talking about St. Louis. I've just got to narrate that part of it. But I think that something that I don't want to be lost in your story is, yes, it's easy to say she lived the corporate dream and realized that she wanted more, so she opened an ice cream shop. I think that that's oversimplifying your story a little bit if somebody were to just take that away, because you still are clearly success driven. You could have just opened a casual ice cream place serving casual whatever it was, but no, you serve some of the best ice cream that people around the country have ever had. You win awards, and you now you're opening a 4th location soon,
in Maplewood,
right?
yeah.
In Maplewood. I mean, that's about a new location per year, just about. I mean, would you say that you're still kind of have that success drive in you that you want to?
Yeah. At first.
Don't be apologetic. I think it's good.
No.
Yeah.
I do. I think it's innate in me.
Yeah.
But I think in the beginning, I was really just yearning for probably one ice cream shop. I had this romanticized notion that I'm going to open this ice cream shop, I'm going to get married, I'm going to have a baby, I'm going to raise her around the ice cream shop, kind of a very simplified view. And then kind of once I got into it, I realized I had something really unique and really special. And then because I was from the food industry, I know what the big companies put in their food products. I know how they make them. I know how they cut corners. And so I wanted to make something different, and once I realized that I did have something really unique and different, and we got open, and then we had 4 and 5 hour lines that never stopped at our Lafayette store, like all summer, like down around the block, like it was insane. And I was like, oh my gosh, if nothing else, I have to open another store to reduce the lines.
Yeah.
And
there are always lines.
And there's still lines at every store.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. But then I think my natural tendencies, I built brands and I did marketing for over 20 years. So I think that's in my nature. I'm really good at doing that. And so I put my own strengths and skill set to work. And then from a product perspective, I just knew I wanted to make something different than what was out there.
Yeah.
And I knew it could be done because I'd seen a few other people make really, really amazing ice cream on the West Coast. And I said, I feel like St. Louis, because we're also a flyover state, right? People don't know the great things that we have here. And so once I started winning awards and things, I was like, okay, I was really proud that I was putting St. Louis on the map.
Yeah.
For something.
So we know that you love nice. That's what you brought you to the Midwest.
Yes.
Tell me about Naughty.
Yes. So Naughty came about in a very interesting way. One of my restaurant bar owners approached me one day, early on, way before my shops were open, and said, hey, I need you to put some liquor. Can you put some liquor in this ice cream flavor? And I said, no, because it doesn't work. And he was like, can you just try? I want to do something different. And this was like a couple years ago when like nobody had boozy shakes, like nobody was doing it. And so he was like pushing me, and I said, okay, I'll try it. But I'm like, but don't get your hopes up, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And so like later that weekend, I think I was sitting around thinking, well, there really hasn't been any innovation in ice cream since Dippin' Dots.
Right.
And I was like, well, how much could I, or how'd that work? And, I came from the food industry, and so I have access to the best food scientists and chemists and product developers in the world.
Which is what it takes for something like this.
Yes. And so literally I reached out to my core group of friends who worked in various different areas of the scientific field, and I just started asking questions like, could we do this? What if we did this? And coming from the food industry, I had way more knowledge than the average Joe about new technologies that were coming out in food and ingredients, different things that the average person wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And so I just started asking questions, and someone, well, maybe, what if you try this? And so I ended up with kind of a core group. It took us about 6 months, and we started, seeing some results with doing this and then this, and they were like, wow, wait a second, this works, and this is something really special. So they were, of course, we all worked for big companies at the time, or they still did, I didn't. And they're like, you got to go to a patent attorney.
Yeah.
We have to patent this. And so I went to my patent attorneys, and I said, okay, we need to patent this. And they were like, great, but you do understand if you patent this, you're going to open it up to everybody.
What do you mean by that?
So when you file a patent, it protects you, but you basically have to open it up and tell the world how you do it. But then they protect you legally for 7 years.
Got
right?
it.
So as a small independent person, right, that leaves me open to all the big commercial people figuring out or looking at how I did it, and then they could go duplicate, and they have clearly way more money than me and way more attorneys on staff.
Right.
And so I was like, oh. So actually it was my attorney who said, I would seriously recommend that you actually keep this as a trade secret, because then no one will know how you do it.
So is that how it stands right now?
So that's how it stands right now.
Huh.
It is our trade secret process for infusing alcohol into ice cream.
And so give us a real quick science lesson on why that's so difficult. I've tried to make frozen rosé popsicles, and I know that alcohol doesn't freeze easily, but give us a quick little rundown of why this is such a scientific thing.
Sure, it's the alcohol depresses the freezing point so it won't freeze. Right, that's why you can keep a bottle of vodka in the freezer and it never freezes. And so that is just simply the way it is. And so in order to do something different, you have to do something different, and that's all I can say about it.
Right. I kind of like that, though. It's interesting. And it's really taken off. I mean, you were saying that nobody was doing it before. Now, while a lot of people are doing it, you have things that are liquid already, milkshakes and smoothies and slushies and things like that. You don't still really see the ice cream
because they can't do it.
Yeah.
And I always like to tell people, and they'll be like, oh, I went to so-and-so place and they had it. I'm like, it's different most places who now do it, they either sprinkle it in, so there's hardly any in there, so it doesn't really matter and you can't taste it, or they're using a flavor, right? That's not really liquor, but people don't understand that. They just read a word and assume it's there, right? But ours packs a punch. It's really, really strong. And we can do up to 18% in our ice creams. And we don't do that with all of them, but of course, because it's about flavor and what tastes the best, But yeah, it's definitely change. I'm definitely changing the ice cream game for sure.
Have you ever gotten drunk on your ice cream?
No. Because the lactose in the ice cream is going to upset your stomach far more than the alcohol will. You'd have to eat that much of it.
Oh, okay. So even that, it'll still you keep it in check then?
Yeah, one kind of offsets the other.
So what is it then? Why do we want alcohol in our ice cream? I mean, I know why I want alcohol in my ice cream, but why do you think this resonates with people?
Because I think that's, those are favorite things for people, right? People love their booze and they love their ice cream, and when you bring them together, you're like, woo!
Yeah.
It's this awesome thing. It's fun for parties, and we don't serve to anyone under the age of 21. But now it's become a thing. So all these 21-year-olds always come in on their birthday with all their friends, and they're so excited, and they're like, "Here's my ID. Can I have some ice cream now?" Like, so it's turned into like a big thing now, where all these kids want to come in on their 21st birthday, and it's super exciting for us.
And now you have, instead of bringing your ugly tears to your girlfriend's night,
That's right.
you have boozy ice cream, and I'm sure
Yes.
you're much more popular.
I am very popular. And I never have to cook another dish for any dinner party for the rest of my life because I always bring dessert.
Tamara couldn't have done it without her friends. Neither could the guys at Narwhal's, Brad Merton and Brandon Holtzen.
Yeah, we're both Parkway West guys. So, I mean, we met each other in middle school. And, yeah, I mean, been friends since then. But, yeah, so, I mean, we both also went to Mizzou. So that's kind of where I got started with Picklemans and kind of get involved in that side of the industry.
That's Brad, who got his CPA buddy Brandon to join him in the restaurant world shortly after graduating college. Two dudes walk into a bank trying to open a sandwich shop in the middle of a recession. Sounds like the beginning of a really bad joke, right? Well, it turns out opening Pickleman's Gourmet Cafes in the St. Louis area was just the beginning of a delicious partnership.
With a franchise, it's great, especially for people that usually just want to invest and kind of have somebody give them the answers. And, your job as a franchisee is just to take the concept that's given to you and to execute it to the best of your ability, to staff, to train, to order, to promote, and, but you're executing a different concept that, and I mean, Brad and I always, we want to have our input on a bunch of stuff. I think that Narwhal's and where this came from it's obviously so much different than a sandwich shop, right? But a lot of the same basic principles still apply. I mean, customer service and cleanliness, and I mean, all the other things that go into, I mean, it's still retail, it's still hospitality. It was just, it was something that we wanted to do. I mean, who hasn't really wanted to own a bar with one of their best friends, and it was kind of like, it's not something that everybody probably should do it, but it's kind of like a dream, and we decided that we wanted to pursue it, and so we did, and I mean, here we are almost 3 years later and getting ready to open a second location. And
That's going in at Streets of St. Charles,
and
off
I think
5th
that was
Street.
kind of part
It's
of the
opening any
inspiration,
day now.
Like Brandon says, who doesn't dream of opening a bar, but how can you do it differently than just, being the next bar? So, yeah, we felt there was an opportunity with the frozen cocktails to, do them a little bit differently, and maybe, the perception of what most people think as a frozen cocktail is being, overly sweet or, syrupy or, just Mai Tais and rum runners and those types of things. It's first and foremost, we're thinking craft quality cocktail, and then we're just doing it in frozen form.
Crafted is in the name. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, we have a full kitchen downstairs. Our motto is thoughtfully crafted. So we take a thoughtful approach to everything we do and we make. We don't want to take any shortcuts. And the nice thing about it is we do all of our hard work. During right now. Now is not our busiest time, but it's we're down in the kitchen. We're making all of our purees, our syrups, our batching. And, at night when we're busy, the machines do all the work. So we're able to execute, our product fast and efficiently, but not compromise any of our product standards, and give out a cocktail that's just as good that you'd probably get anywhere else in the city.
Yeah, and that's one thing that does stand out about everything you get here. It tastes like, even if it's just the person behind the bar pouring something from a machine, you can taste that it had more steps than that. And
Yeah.
It's not the overly sugary, sweet stuff that it feels like you get from a movie theater. It just happens to be spiked.
Right. You get halfway through and your stomach starts to hurt.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But we have one drink that's no sugar. I mean, our gin and tonic, our hibiscus gin and tonic is the opposite of everything that you would think of for a frozen drink. For that reason, we want people to be surprised when they come in here. A lot of people come in and they have no idea that one of the foundations of the entire concept is, everything is made from scratch. No food colorings, to give it a cool. If you see a cool color behind the bar, Prickly Pear Margarita's got this amazing color. It's that's cactus fruit that's giving it that color, not a bunch of food coloring. No high fructose. But people come in here and maybe don't have any idea that that's one of the foundations of how this got started. And I think we hope that we're surprising in a lot of ways to a lot of people, and the process of how we make the drinks is one of the ways that we do that. So.
So I'm picturing like two buddies sitting there being like, hey, we should have a bar. And then you're trying to come up with what's going to make you different. Did you have ideas that maybe didn't stick, like other concepts that you thought you'd move forward with?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we almost opened a barber shop. And that would have been a franchise, and that was something we were entertaining because we didn't know what we wanted to do next. Because after Pickleman's, I mean, we were happy with Pickleman's, and we liked what we were doing, but like you said earlier, I mean, there's just a lot of moving parts, running a Pickleman's or running a franchise, and it's like, is it sustainable for us to keep opening these? And, we just kind of wanted to try something new and different ourselves too, and kind of, see what else was out there. So, I mean, we tried to think outside the box in a lot of different ways, and I mean, I'm sure we thought of a million other things, but the one that really I think we kind of went down the road of was a barbershop, and it was a franchise, and I don't even remember the name of it now.
V's
barbershop.
Like old school, like sit in the classic chairs, like guys straight razor shave.
Yeah.
So we flew down to Phoenix and visited with them, and
great company.
It was a great meeting. We had a good time down there. Got a good shave and a haircut. But yeah, and then like soon after we came back, and I'm not even really sure what happened, but it was like, let's open a bar, and then we just kind of went full steam and just kind of like
it really kind of it kind of started overnight, but I mean we threw around a bunch of ideas like what's next for us, and for whatever reason when this seed kind of got planted, it
seemed to make the most sense.
The ideas started just flowing and things like that, and I think part of your question was like did you ever, I mean, as far as like how this even got developed, we had before, and this is before we could like sign a lease or do anything, like we didn't know, and we have to have like a concept before you go too far.
Right.
And so we bought one of these machines, which was not cheap. We put it in Brad's basement, and we started like working on stuff, and making a frozen cocktail is not just like, you don't just make a regular cocktail and throw it in there. Like you have to adapt the right. Well, so it's not a blender. It's actually we don't add any ice to any of the drinks.
Oh.
No, the machine freezes it itself.
Huh.
Yeah. So which is why the product that comes out is so much different than you can make just on a blender. And if you even like take that and you just freeze it like a block and then you throw it on a blender later, it won't be the same.
Huh.
It doesn't reconstitute the same. But anyway, I mean, Brad and I would get together a lot, and we would try all sorts of different stuff, and not everything would work. We dumped
poured a lot of booze down the drain,
if not thousands of dollars worth of stuff just down the drain, because we're like, you can't just make a small little thing of it.
We needed
like,
a starting point.
I think this is good, and then you got to freeze 4 gallons, and then you're like, yeah, this didn't work at all. One of the funniest ones was when we put in sage. This was the strawberry basil. Strawberry basil is one, like, it's our flagship now.
It's one of our most.
It was one of the first ones we made.
Yeah.
And but the first time we tried to make it, we didn't realize we'd bought a bag of sage from Restaurant Depot instead of basil, which I don't know how you can. And we're like,
This doesn't taste good.
This does not taste good.
Oh my gosh.
And we found the bag. We're like,
Thank God you guys figured it out.
yeah.
Strawberry sage will never make the menu.
That's a mistake you don't make twice. But yeah, the R&D process took an awful lot of time before we were ever even ready. And from that point, even from the point where we opened and we thought we had a really great menu to now, I mean, strawberry basil lemonade, banana Dave, and the mudslide are the only 3 that are on now, I think, from our original.
Did you have any bartender background or any kind of mixology knowledge? How do you come up with?
We
some
spent
of
a lot of time
Yeah.
at bars.
Not any like formal background behind them. I mean, I worked at Buffalo Wild Wings and poured beers for a short stint, but besides that,
I mean, no
it's.
offense or anything, but that's 0% count.
No.
I know it doesn't.
It's a lot of appreciation of fine cocktails
Yeah.
and
Having a taste for it.
yeah, and but I mean, besides like home bartending, it's kind of one of those things where you just kind of self-taught in a lot of ways.
Like some of these drinks aren't meant for everyone. It might be for more kind of the craft cocktail drinker. So again, using kind of these drinks that people know and recognize, I think it kind of allows them to stay within their comfort zone, but also try things that they might not otherwise try. And I think that's kind of exciting for us to be able to kind of educate people and get people to try mezcal, and they try it and they're like, wow, I guess I realized I like mezcal. Like, I didn't know that. So it's always kind of fun, and just, again, being able to kind of help to guide the customer, because there's a lot of interesting stuff out there, and I kind of like pushing certain things, and it's like, I always try to get people to try the gin and tonic, because on the menu, like, it doesn't sound like the most exciting, but I'm like, you just got to try it. Like, I think it's very unique to us, and a lot of people are kind of wowed by it. Like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. I don't like gin. Well, I guess you do like gin.
Yeah. You guys are St. Louis guys. How do you think that Narwhals would have done in another town, or how do you think being part of the St. Louis scene has impacted your business, especially because when you think about it, we don't have a beach here. It's not, we had a really cold winter, you know, it's not necessarily the first place people would think they could find a really solid frozen cocktail. Not solidly frozen, but you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
A really good frozen cocktail.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of ironic, because, yeah, we're not the best climate for it. I mean, there's plenty of other cities and destinations in the U.S. or, where, you know, like a beach that would be more suitable towards our concept. And, you know, kind of through when we were kind of coming up with the brand and the idea, it's like we did a lot of like market research and like Google search, and just to see what else was out there, and it just didn't seem like what we were doing was being done quite to the level that we wanted to do.
It's home. I mean, you know, we grew up here. I love the city. I probably never loved the city more, you know. I mean, it's like it just keeps getting better, and you know, thank you to everybody that has gotten behind us here.
We're the town fully credited with getting behind the ice cream cone. We made a cake so gooey and buttery, you literally couldn't call it anything else. We like our beer cold, and it turns out our desserts colder. And the fact that the people are the coolest.
I tell everyone I could not have followed my dreams and have done this in any other city.
Really?
No, because St. Louisans like support our independent businesses and support each other. It's just this really cool, magical place. So accessible for so many things. And I think that's important for people who want to take risks and who want to follow their dreams and who want to try something.
That's just the cherry on top.
Ooh la la! Ooh la la! Ooh la la!
Abby Eats St. Louis is a 5 on Your Side production. I'm your host, Abby Larico. Our executive producer is Dory Olmos. Theme music is by Olivier Renoir, Jerome Fabi, and Pierre Dubost. Join our conversation on Instagram. We want to hear from you, really. What's your dream boozy ice cream flavor? Where's your favorite place to grab something ice cold and refreshing? Let us know about the other food news you're curious about or other episode ideas you have for us. Be sure, of course, to follow on Instagram, but subscribe on the podcast, leave a review, rate us, all that kind of fun stuff. Until next time, seize the plate.